Hi there, it's Professor Mochik again. Today I want to share with you relief printmaking in the very easiest forms of relief printmaking. That means we're going to be printing something, the surface of something, and not printing what's below the surface. So here's a great way to get into this medium of printmaking. First of all, I want to show you some things that I have. We have a wooden spoon for rubbing, a roller, and I buy a pure rubber roller. It's important. You can't have a wood core. A simple cookie sheet, not an aluminum one though that has bumps in it. It has to be flat, everybody. Simple plastic spatula of some kind, and if you don't have this, you can always improvise. Don't forget, that's what an artist does. So maybe there's a spatula you use from the house or a plastic knife or something like that. I'm going to wear some gloves, although this ink that we're using, and it's not paint, it's ink. It's water-based ink, so easy peasy cleanup, okay? And I'm looking around, of course, gloves, a rag. I like to have a little dampened rag ready to go, you never know. And I have a little registration system I'll show you in a bit, but first you have to figure out, what am I printing? Well, I bought these foam boards. They're really inexpensive, and you can pick them up at a lot of art stores or go online. And what happens is there's no cutting involved, so kids this high can do this, and it's a wonderful way to introduce you into printmaking. Yet don't think it's just kiddie stuff. You can do some very sophisticated work with it. So it's a piece of foam. Hey, guess what? If you don't have a foam plate that you bought, you can use a foam paper plate. Cut the middle out, not the part that's ridged up, and cut a little square out of it. Works just as well. So right now I have this foam plate, and I'm going to show you. You can draw directly on it with something like a pen, and notice it actually indents, and I can catch my nail in that. I use a pen not so hard that I'm going to rip through, but it's firm enough to get some marks, and that goes below the surface. Now you can prepare a drawing. As a matter of fact, a lot of people would prepare a drawing. I'm using a 5 by 7 inch size. It's very reasonable size, it fits paper easily, and as you can see, you may want to do a preparatory drawing. Well, I got a little excited and carried away, and I just drew directly on the foam plate myself. So here's my little preparatory, or my actual drawing. And again, lines go below the surface. Now, this is done with simple pen, all right? And the drawing will be inked up in just a few minutes. Let's go back to what we have around here. Okay, cookie sheet, roller. I've purchased some ink. It has to be printing ink, and there's a lot of brands. I'm not supporting anyone, but in fact, a water-based printing ink. Easy to clean up by hand and with soap and water. What you have to do though is open the lid, obviously, and with my little spatula, sometimes it says mix because it may settle. So I did do some pre-mixing, and I'm going to be taking with that, I kind of scoop the top, almost like peanut butter, but since I've pre-mixed it, I'm going to take a little bit of this out. You see about how much. And I'm going to go and create what I call a ribbon of ink. This is a ribbon of ink. Now, I don't want tons of ink, and I can always add more in a little bit. So then I'm going to put my spatula against my ink, and I'm going to take my roller. Remember, we want to use a nice rubber roller, not with a wooden core. Wooden cores end up warping, and the roller gets crazy, and then you can't ink the darn plate. So I don't even know why they sell them. Okay, nice rubber roller. It can be any size, but I happen to have a 6-inch size here, which will work great with my 5-inch width by 7-inch. I could use a 3-inch or 4-inch, it doesn't matter. So look, watch what I do. I'm going to hold the cookie sheet, and now if I just go like this, oh, I only see ink in 3 places. Well, yes, you're only inking half the roller. You have to ink and lift, and guess what happens? When you roll and lift, you go like that, and it charges the entire roller with black ink. I'm using black in this case because we're just trying to learn the method, and black and white I very much adore. A lot of my work is black and white. Now you hear that sound? That sounds pretty good. If it sounds really loud and you start spattering your arm, you know you've got too much ink. Another thing about a roller, these are the feet of the roller. You see how when I turn it over and I sit it down, it doesn't make a mess. If I leave the roller and start making lines everywhere, oh my gosh, I've messed things up. Very important. Do you like to stand on your head all day? No. Think about this roller. Back and forth, back and forth. I think I need a little more ink. How are you going to figure that out? Experience. Try. Print. You're going to see. It's the only way you really learn what you're going to do in the future. So I know from experience that probably need just a little more ink, but you know, it's funny. You don't need as much ink as you might think. And this jar can actually last quite, oh my goodness, 50 prints. I mean, really, it's amazing. Of course, that's if you clean the edges nicely and make sure you don't leave it open and dry it out. Water-based inks can dry out, lickety-split, and then there you are, stuck with buying a new jar, and that wasn't very wise. So here we go. And I've really not used this particular brand of ink before, so you are going to be with me experimenting. A little nervous, and you might be too. All right, let's see. I'm taking the plate right now. I put it on newspaper. Notice I have a dining room table here, and I've covered it with plastic. You can do the same thing. You don't need a fancy workspace. That's what I love about printmaking in this method. Now, I know I can lift the paper up. I know I have gloves on, so I'm getting ready for a few things. I'm going to start rolling this plate. Oh, I'm so excited. Nothing like rolling up the plate you just ended up drawing onto. Oh, if you didn't want to draw directly on it because you're too nervous about that, you could have taken your actual drawing, placed it right on top, made sure it doesn't move, tape it a little, and trace over your drawing. Guess what you've got to remember though? The print is going to be the reverse image of the drawing. Backwards. Don't add letters and things in the beginning. Plus, who wants to do that anyway? That's signage. We are fine artists. I go back to the plate, back to the plate, back to the palette of ink. Now to the plate, inking up. Notice the lines are not inking up because they're below the surface. I'm so excited. I tell you what, there's nothing better than inking up your first print. Printing, it's another story. That's even more exciting. You know, you love how the plate looks, and then you've got to understand, notice I'm going back and forth in multiple layers. Better than one big glob, it'll spill into the lines. That's not what we want. We're only inking the surface. Takes time, people. Patience. Art is not fast food. Here we go. A little bit more. Oh, water-based ink. Now, this is the first time I've ever printed this plate, meaning it's dry. So the first print, be patient, could look a little dry. Oh, do I need a little bit more? I'm nervous. I'll give it a little bit more. And now, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put my roller down. I don't like a mess more than I have to have a mess because I don't like to clean up, right? So now, notice what I have over here. I have purchased from one of those cheapo stores where everything costs $1, a simple couple of pieces of plastic that they say are almost like things you cut vegetables on in the kitchen. So I found a pack of 3 for like $1. It was amazing. And I thought, a registration system. What's a registration system? Well, before I started, on the back of this, I took the sheet of paper and made marks as to where the paper will actually sit. I'm taping this down just so things don't shift too much. And as you can see, they're shifting a bit. And why did I put paper underneath? Well, it's even better than the marks. I could see right away where the paper is, so I put an extra sheet underneath. So I made marks on the opposite side. Why opposite side? Well, it's permanent marker, and I don't want it interfering or getting lost with the actual, ink. You can tell the phone's ringing. I'm at home. You're going to be at home. You're going to be in your dining room. You're going to be wherever, and you're just going to have to continue working. Interruptions, things, etc. So we put the paper underneath, and we see what that looks like. And then I end up also, I took the block size, and I traced around the block. Same thing on the back side. Flipped it, put it down, put a piece of paper under it. This means that in the future, I can use this same wonderful, I see that the phone is just going a little haywire. Use the same wonderful piece of plastic time and time again. Okay? Here we go. Now I'm going to take what I just inked and put it down. Right there. Ooh, a little shifted off. Don't touch it, don't move it. You could smear ink into areas that you don't want. I'm wearing an apron. It's very, very handy. Now, wait a minute. I may take off my gloves because I like my hands to feel the paper and the rubbing, okay? Then I'll be able to show you what it's like if you weren't using gloves. and you actually had to, clean up. Here we go, look at, I'm matching up those corners. I know my plate's down there, dropped. I gently rub the paper. What kind of paper am I using? You know, for this, a simple way at home is just computer paper. Obviously, I want something a little more archival. So there are many fancy non-Western papers out there that you can buy, but they can't be too thick or you won't get a good print. I am using something right now called interleaving paper. It is actually pH balanced, meaning it's archival and will not deteriorate over time. It's thin, and it's what you use many times to put in between prints when you're storing them in a flat file. Well, I've discovered it works really great for prints, and it's a lovely white. So now look what I did. I tacked everything down. I'm not going like this or like this. I don't want to make indentations. Here I go. Now I'm going to start rubbing. And with the spoon, a wooden spoon, I find, really that's what I like. They sell fancy plastic spoons. Some people take the bottom of a baby food jar and use that. You can rub with lots of things. If you use a metal spoon to rub, it's going to get hot, people. And you're going to go, whoa. So here we go. And I have to be patient. Rubbing a print does not happen quickly, okay? Talking back about relief printing while I'm rubbing, and notice what I'm doing. I keep holding with the left hand, I'm right-handed, and I keep going around trying to print rub. And I may not have enough ink this time. I may have too much, not enough, or the plate's dry. It's never been printed before. Gotta be patient. This is such a fast way to get a relief print. And again, it's called relief because we're inking the surface and allowing the lines underneath to stay underneath. In this case, since I inked the surface and the lines were drawn with a pencil, the drawing or the print is going to be white lined on black. Again, you could use any color you like of ink. I just chose black because it's going to look wonderful and be very, kind of sharp and in contrast. Did a little urban scene. That happens to be what I enjoy drawing. And I'm going to keep, how do you know when you're done rubbing? Oh no. What was really important is that I went like this before I started rubbing. If I wouldn't have, and I just start rubbing, the paper could shift on me. All right. Well, I wanted to mention that 200 BC is the earliest times almost that printmaking was discovered. Once they figured out they could carve something. Actually, once they figured out that in caves in France, hands were put up against a wall and they blew pigment around the hand, lifted the hand up, it was a stencil print. As far as relief print, once you figured out you could carve something, that was left, the carving. So you could either press it into something like paper. Some of the great emperors pressed it into paper and that would be their seal. Or maybe put some pigment on it or so. And started, once paper was invented, actually stamping it down and saying, hey, I get multiple prints. That's the thing about printmaking. It's not one of a kind. You can get a multiple series, or what we call an edition. So, okay, am I ready? Have you heard a little bit enough about history here? Oh, there's so much to look up and you really need to. Artists that don't do their research are creating in a vacuum, and they need to understand their history and their research to produce wonderful works of art. Now guess what? This is one of those a medium that I can actually peek. Oh, I'm peeking! I love this. I'm still holding on the paper, and I'm like, you know what? The amount of ink looks pretty darn good. I'm gonna check over here too, because if it looks like it's too dry, I can go back and rub a little bit more. That is the beauty of this printmaking. I mean, where do you do that? Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna go for it. What do you think? Oh boy, I gotta be careful here. Wow, it's a print. Fantastic. There's nothing like your heart beating to see your first print. Now you might notice and say, well, Professor Mochek, I'm noticing there's some little things in the background and all. Yeah, that's the foam itself. It might have a nick or so. It adds to the beauty. Don't worry about those things. Now, you might say, well, I have an area that's too dry. Well, you'll know next time, gee, you didn't rub it. There's a lot of things you're going to learn. But look how nice and clean that is. You've got to put it aside and it's going to take time to dry. Could be a day or so. Don't be messing around. Let it dry. But isn't that just, look at that. White lines, foam plate, as easy as could be. Now what I'm going to do is let's say I want to print another print. What do? Do I have to clean all this up? No, here's the beauty of it. Put it right back there, go through the same process, add some more ink, use your roller, roll it up, get more of a palette of ink, as they say, a ribbon, and back to inking the plate. I mean, that's all you have to do. Then, again, repeat, but uh-oh, this is messy, meaning you can do one of a few things. Well, you got to clean that. You just can't put that plate back down there. It's going to smear and get all kinds of marks on your fresh print. So you've got to be careful and think enough in between to clean that, okay? For the sake of time, I'm not going to do that now. I'm just telling you. So, here's the plate. Wow, huh? Here's the print. Notice the reverse image. Oh, take a look. Reverse image. Plate and print. You've got to remember that when you're creating imagery. Some people say, well, I can't and that's too complicated for me. Well, then make your preparatory drawing. Go tack it up on a window. Now stay with me here. This gets a little complicated. And trace the back of the drawing. You've flipped it. Got it? Then put it down on top of that fresh piece of foam board. And guess what? You can actually put it on top of the fresh foam board. Make sure you've taped it and press, go over that tracing with pen or so. It'll still press through. Then there you've got a plate, and guess what? It's backwards from the way you want it to look. Perfect. So when you print it, it's right side up. Hope I haven't complicated things too much. If you didn't understand what I just said, don't worry about it. And just remember, letters and things are a little complicated right now. So do what I did to begin with. Okay? So now I just want to let you know, and I'm looking at our time, I certainly don't want to go much longer. This is water-based, so how do you clean it up? I keep a nice spray bottle of some water at hand, and I can start cleaning this up. I can actually put some paper towel down first, so that I work on even rubbing some of that ink off before I go hitting it with, oh, look at, there's another print. Oh my gosh. I start cleaning that up. That's what I find a spray bottle well. And if I were at the sink, I'm going to pull my little pot of water here. By the way, you keep your clean paper very separate from everything. And, you know, if I were by the sink and, you know, I just got some ink on me, I mean, here you go. Oh no, what am I going to do? It'll wash off with water. It takes a little time, but I'm just trying to show you. Don't be afraid, and if you have your gloves, you don't have to worry about any of this, okay? So, sorry, trying to show you that, you know, all you need is soap and water for this medium, and it's pretty easy. So I'm done printing this plate for today. I'm not going to print anymore. How do I clean it? Well, I like to put some newspaper and go right directly on it to get some of the excess ink that's on it. I've made kind of a ghost image print, they call that. And then that's the beauty of this ink and things. The spray bottle helps, and I can pretty much, it's a new spray bottle. I haven't tried it. Don't you love it? So what I can do really is get some water and really just start to wipe the plate. And I notice I take the newspaper. I like keeping myself clean if possible. Why make more mess than I need to? Look at how that comes off pretty easily. That's because I haven't gooped it up with tons of ink to begin with. I could use paper towel, or I love cutting up t-shirts. People, just cut up your old clothes, will you, and use them for art. All right. So as you can see, you'll say, well, wait a minute, that's not 100% clean. I turn it over. All right. Any excess I can get off. And there you go. And that's about all you need. You're going to let that dry. Remember, you don't need to do this in between printing. That's just when you're done for the day. And that's how you clean the foam. You everything else up if you got some residue here. And really, that's it. What could be easier? The roller and spatula are very similar in cleanup as the plate was. And I like to, again, take some newspaper, get the excess out of my roller, and I go to the edges because they tend to keep a lot of ink in them. And I end up turning it over. And you know what? I'll take that spray bottle. Oh, my spray bottle's working now. Okay, very good. And I spray a little bit, and then I just kind of roll. And again, I'm trying to get the darn ink off of this. And remember, be a little patient. Clean it up. That's really all you need to do. Again, you're gonna clean everything with soap and water. You can take it over to a sink. It's okay. This is all safe, water-based inks. And you might say, well, gee, Is my roller going to get stained? Now here's a good example of how it will come clean. You may have a little, you're going to have that little residue. You see that? It's never going to look quite new, but that's clean more. That's what we would consider much more clean. That is not clean. So you got to keep cleaning, get the edges, put your rag down here. You want to hold on to what you purchased for a long time. It costs money, and let's face it, we want to keep our tools and objects nice and safe. Okay, and clean. And then I'm going to clean over the lid of my ink, whichever way. You can buy ink in tubes too, don't worry about that. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, you know, how many prints can you make with a foam plate? Well, not as many as you could make if it were wood or something. But you know what? You want to make 5, you want to make 6, maybe 10. Why not? And enjoy yourself. That's about it for now. I hope you have a great time printing. These are original prints. They are not copies. If you do 5 of these, in another session, I'll teach you how to sign and number. But for now, happy printing, keep working, and that's Professor Mochik signing off.